Hello and welcome to the Way to Native Chronicles. We're going to do a video today on the top 10 reasons for using a revolver versus a semi-automatic handgun. In light of the heavy emphasis on semi-automatic handguns, and I see this working behind the gun counter too. You know, everybody comes to the handgun section of the counter and gravitate over towards the semi-automatics. I think a lot of it is just perception. You know, people really love a semi-automatic, and I can't blame them at all. But I wish that more people would kind of move over to the revolver section a little bit. Take a look at these guns. And maybe a lot of the reason why people don't look at the revolvers all that much is because they're regarded as sort of yesterday's news. They don't know much about revolvers, what they're good for, you know. Maybe they think they're just kind of a nostalgic type of item. So I'd like to put this video out there just to explain a little bit why there's some really good reasons for using a revolver. And after you listen to it, you might look at this a little different when it comes to your next choice in purchasing a handgun. So let's get started on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to list off the top 10 reasons. I have more reasons than 10, but I had to trim it down to 10. And I think if you watch this through right to the end, the last two reasons, in my opinion, are by far the most important reasons for buying a revolver. So hang in there and see if you can put up with my awkward delivery. I'll do my best, okay? Let's get started. Okay, so our first reason for choosing a revolver over a semi-automatic is got to do with power. A lot of people exaggerate the need for power. I suppose for target shooting you don't need it all that much. But there are cases where you do need power, and that would be in situation of defending yourself in the wilderness. There are some of us who work or spend time in the wilds where there's mountain lions, grizzly bears, black bears, things like that. And if you're going to protect yourself, a 9mm or something like that is not going to do the job for you. A lot of people say a 10mm is actually pretty good too, but yeah, that's not nearly as much power as a 44 Magnum. Don't fool yourself. Maybe you can get the job done, but I would rather be hitting an animal with a 240 grain hard cast bullet, personally. Never mind all the rapid fire techniques and stuff. Accuracy is king. So you get off one really good shot on an animal, I'll take that and trade for 3 wildly random shots at it that just go all over the place. That's my opinion on it. There are some people who are fans of semi-automatic so much that that's what they want to carry in the bush, but really a semi-automatic, its advantage is that you can conceal it so well. And if you're in the bush, you don't need a gun that you can conceal. Just wear it on a holster on the outside. It's not like you're just dealing with animals out there. So in that type of a situation where you need power and you need defense in the wilds, I think a revolver really has it hands down. The other area where a revolver excels is in terms of working with different loads. You know, when you're shooting, you don't necessarily always have to be shooting full house loads. But with a semi-automatic, you've got to make that gun function. And that means that essentially you're going to be using the same type of load all the time. Sometimes your semi-automatic only wants to use bullets with a certain weight and things like that too. So it gets really restrictive. But once you get into the world of revolvers, everything is open to you. You can use all different weights of bullets. You can practice using a 38 special in a 357 Magnum revolver, for instance, perfectly acceptable. And then use your 357 Magnums later on. 44 mag, same thing, you can go with 44 special. Or if you choose, you can take your 44 mag cartridge, for instance, you can load it down nice and light, have some powder puff loads. It's great, you know, especially for somebody who's learning to shoot. You don't necessarily want to be shooting really hot loads. And maybe for extended practice, the hot load will really wear you down, not to mention your hands. So this is kind of related to the previous point. If you're in need for a gun with sufficient power for protection, not against humans but against big animals, then you're dealing with a gun that can really recoil and sting your hand. But if you're out practicing at the range, you don't need to shoot those full house rounds all the time, unless you're kind of a hog for punishment like I am, quite frankly. But yeah, load up some lighter loads and shoot those, and maybe finish off with 10 rounds of the real hot stuff, just to make yourself remember what you're what you're doing out there. Shooting the light stuff is going to help you shoot better, and maybe if you shoot the hot stuff all the time, you're just going to start to develop a flinch. It's hard to battle against that with handguns, because it's so easy to move your sights in response to any interaction by your reptile brain there saying, hey, this is going to hurt. So go with a revolver if you want flexibility in your loads. The third point I'd like to bring forward is, unlike a semi-automatic, revolvers are really dead simple to operate. They're understandable. You can see how the thing functions. You pull the hammer back and you pull the trigger. If you don't want to pull the hammer back and you have a double action, you can just pull the trigger through on double action. You can see the cylinders revolve as you're shooting. You know how many shots you have in that gun. When you unload it, there's no chance that you open the action first and see that it looks like it's empty, and then close it and take out the magazine after, doing things in the wrong order, and where you've actually loaded a live round. So for somebody who's new to the use of firearms, a revolver is a real advantage there as well. It's very simple to use. Double action, single action, straightforward. Everybody can understand how a revolver works. There's no safety on it. The safety is that long pull of the double action in the case of a double action revolver. If it's a single action, well, you've got to physically pull that hammer, cock the hammer back before you can shoot it. So very safe, I would say. Another advantage of using a revolver is when it comes to reloading. Handguns go through a lot of ammunition, and if you want to become a good shot, unless you got pretty deep pockets, it's very advisable to get into reloading your own brass. So after you fire the ammunition, you want to collect up all your brass and use it again, because that's the single most expensive component of your cartridge. So if you're shooting a semi-automatic, your shells are just flying all over the shooting range, and afterwards you're going to be going around with a broom trying to scoop up the ones that are yours, probably scooping up some that aren't yours, and some of different for different calibers and things like that, and just a pain. In fact, some of us are pretty stuck on the cases that we like. We want a certain manufacturer, and maybe you have nickel-plated cases. I know I do for certain purposes, and when you use a revolver, you're not going to lose your brass. It just open it up, cylinder, and dump it into your hand, and put it back in the box right after you shoot it. So no confusing your brass with other people's. So we get into reloading, revolvers are a real advantage. Another point to consider with revolvers is that they can use a variety of different bullet styles and shapes, because you're not dealing with a cartridge that has to feed up from a magazine into a loading ramp and get chambered in your gun. Your cartridges are all put in a cylinder, they're all ready to go. It makes life a whole lot simpler. Not just in terms of the bullet style, but also in terms of the overall length of the cartridge. So just like I was mentioning before, the 38 Special is a much shorter cartridge than 357 mag, but it's no big deal. You just put that in the cylinder and you're ready to go. So you have all kinds of flexibility when it comes to creating new loads and things like that. You can load that gun for whatever suits you, depending on the purpose at hand. You may want to use a very heavy bullet for self-defense against wildlife versus target shooting. You just want to use a light bullet, maybe not, if you're casting bullets, not use up too much metal. Again, cast bullets are also a very effective way of reducing your shooting costs. Next to the case itself, that bullet is an expensive component of your cartridges. So get into reloading, get into bullet casting. There's nothing holding you back with a revolver. It can be done with semi-automatics, but it's more difficult to do with semi-automatics. Revolvers, life is just easy. Another aspect that isn't brought up very much when it comes to comparing revolvers to semi-automatics is the aspect of grip design. When you hold a handgun in your hand, you want that gun to fit your hand. It's going to affect your ability to use that handgun accurately and consistently, have the right grip on it. And the grip should be primarily designed to meet that need. What is the shape that your hand needs to hold a handgun? But you know what happens with the semi-automatic? They got their magazines up in the pistol well there, and guess what determines the dimension of that grip? It's that square box that's inside it. So you just can't get the same kind of grip on a semi-automatic that you can on a revolver. On a revolver, if they wanted to make them big and square and chunky like a semi-automatic, they could. They have full flexibility to make the grip whatever size or shape that they want to do, but they go with the size and shape of grips that they do on revolvers because those are the best for the shape of your hand and for shooting. So you're not constrained by the needs of magazine capacity and cartridge size for your grip. Your cartridges are all in the cylinder, away from your hand. So you're going to have a better fit, better grip on your handgun when it comes to revolver. Another aspect of revolver use that comes to mind is when it comes to cleaning them. This is not maybe as huge of a difference, but I find the revolvers very easy to clean. You can just swing out the cylinder, you can scrub out the cylinders and the barrel. You can just get a piece of cloth, some hops on it, and just clean the whole thing by hand, and in no time you're done cleaning a revolver. They're very simple animals. They do need to have some maintenance, but when it comes to cleaning your handgun, that's something that you're going to do many times, so you might want to give that some thought. It's a small advantage. Reliability is another concern when it comes to handguns. Now, if you're just target shooting, I guess if you have the occasional jam, it's not the end of the world. Everybody's got to go through that practice with a semi-auto of how to clear a jam in it, and that's with a revolver. You really don't have to learn stuff like that. The gun is going to just work. If you're in a situation where you need that gun and it's to save your life or something like that, if you were to, in the worst circumstance I can think of is you drop the hammer on a round and it doesn't go off for some reason. Maybe something defective in that cartridge. Maybe you fell in a creek earlier in the day. There's reasons that could happen. Extreme cold weather. With a revolver, you got another fresh round sitting in the next cylinder. That one will go off. If it doesn't go off, try the next one. So you got your mechanism is not dependent on the round firing. You don't have to clear it out. Revolvers are very reliable. Now we're getting down to the last two of the top 10 reasons for having a revolver. And I would say the second to most important one is the trigger pull. And maybe people are too easily satisfied on account of using semi-automatics, but I find that their triggers are they're generally just terrible triggers on these things. And maybe shooting a rifle, you can get away with a bit of a rough trigger pull or a bit of creep and things like that and still get off some accurate shots. But man, you're fighting an uphill battle when you're shooting a handgun that has a bad trigger in it. If it's not crisp, if it's not light, if it's, when you shoot a revolver, a well-made one like a Smith & Wesson, you cut that thing back in single action mode, and you pull that trigger, it's just like breaking glass when that trigger breaks. It can be quite light, and it's just a dream to shoot. And that type of thing really pays off when you're trying to go for accuracy. I used to be involved in silhouette shooting for many years, and I know a thing or two about accuracy when it comes to handguns. We were shooting at targets out to 200 yards, and you have to hit every target in order to even place in competitions like that. So triggers were always very important to us, to have them right. I just can't imagine myself going into a competition like that for precision shooting most semi-automatics that I've seen. So trigger, single action, especially on a revolver, is just great, especially if it's a good revolver. Okay, now we're going to get down to the very last one. Last one is avoiding a flinch, and this is going to be sort of a hard topic to explain, but you know, when you shoot a handgun, how do you know if you're flinching or not? I mean, when you're shooting a semi-automatic, you may think you're not flinching, but I've seen people on the shooting line many times where they do have a malfunction on their handgun with shooting semi-automatics, and I can't recall a single time that I've seen somebody end up on an empty round shooting a semi-automatic where they didn't go like that on the empty round. They're flinching, and there's no way of remedying that. There's no way of checking yourself. Maybe once in 100 rounds or something like that, you're going to wind up on an empty round and say, oh, well, yeah, no, that's not good. But yeah, so now what are you going to do about it? With a revolver, things are very different. With a revolver, you can take that cylinder and you don't have to put all 6 rounds in the cylinder. You can put one here, put one in there, one there, one there. Maybe 3 rounds in it out of the 6, 4 rounds in it, maybe just 2 rounds in it out of the 6. Then you spin the cylinder and you close it, and without paying attention to any kind of indications that are on the cylinder, you can just start shooting, and you have no idea when that live round is going to come up. So take a shot, boom. Take another shot, boom. Take another shot, click. And when the gun goes click, it should be just like this. It shouldn't be like that. It should be like that. You know, so if you see yourself doing that, then you know you got to work on it. And in fact, just the fact that you don't always know when you're doing, this is called ball and dummy practice, by the way. The fact that you don't know when the live rounds are coming up, that really does set your mind in a different place when you're shooting, that you're just thinking of it as a process of pulling the trigger while you're trying to keep your sights aligned on that target. That's very important. You know, you're not trying to pick a time for it to go off, because you know if you do that, you're going to jerk the gun. So even if you're not flinching, you will still move your sights a little bit, and that's enough to shoot like that low on the target, right? With a handgun, everything has got to be controlled and very smooth in terms of the trigger pull. So as you're shooting and practicing with a revolver, you can really refine your shooting technique to a great degree, much better than semi-automatic, because you get that ball and dummy practice going, and you're click, 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 you know, and boom, boom, click, and whenever you hit on an empty cylinder, you know, you can see for yourself that those sights are not moving at all when the hammer falls down, because you've just been applying the trigger pressure so gradually that when it finally breaks, that it's no extra force is being applied to shake the gun. So that's the stuff that I wanted to go over for my top 10 in terms of why you should use a revolver. Doesn't mean you have to, but these are some good reasons to use one. And I thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get something good out of it, and I hope I didn't offend anybody who likes semi-automatics too much. Maybe I'll get a little bit of flack in the comments. You know, we all have our own opinions. But I thought it would be a good idea just to get out there some of the reasons for the revolver, in case they're not well known enough. Revolvers are my favorite form of handgun, as you can tell. So until next time, God bless, and remember to subscribe to this channel if you can. Okay, see ya.